Okay, shall we get started?
One moment, I just have to make sure we're streaming.
My apologies.
That's okay, thank you for that. Okay, we appear to be streaming, which is great. So I'll just open this up, okay. Oh, and Donna, you're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. We will get started here. Welcome, everybody. It is 12:08 p.m. or 12:09, I'm sorry. We will call the meeting to order on Tuesday, May 20th, meeting of the Cultural Vitality Committee. And I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawatang. Bawatang is home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. The next item on our agenda is to adopt the minutes of our last meeting, which took place on May 14th. Could I have someone to move and to second adoption of those minutes? Thank you, Lee. Thank you. I don't think you can, Sunny, because I don't believe that you were there, correct?
Right, sorry, I didn't see Nyla there, so I was the only other one.
While they're on the screen, I'll try waving.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Nyla. Any changes, additions, deletions to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of those minutes? That is carried. Thank you very much. Anyone with declarations of pecuniary interest today?
I will read them out.
You want to read them from, thank you.
Great, so we're looking at Lee Rendell, item 5.2, the club, John Hilsinger, item 5.7, Algoma Arts Festival Association, and Miranda Bouchard, who's not present, has previously declared conflicts with items 5.9, Friends of Emerging a third National Historic Site, and item 5.20, Goldie Barson.
Okay, any additional declarations? Okay, seeing none. Looking for adoption of the agenda for today. May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt today's agenda? Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Nyla. Any changes to the agenda for today? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of today's agenda? That's carried. All right. So, Alicia, anything for me before you remove me into the waiting room as a result of my conflict with regards to discussion on these items?
Not at this time, if it's okay with you. Part of the conversation we had last time was the individual or small project grants. We discussed those at a volume, and we'll move back into conversation about the rest of the grants I submitted. I'll put you in the waiting room and call you back when the time comes for resolutions.
Okay.
And
okay.
for allocation.
Okay, I'll be in the waiting room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nyla, please take over as chair.
Okay. Lee, while I've got you here, did you have any interest in pulling up that weighted spreadsheet that you prepared? I'm going to make you the host. Please don't
right now, so I'd be happy to do that if and when I can get the ability to share my screen.
Okay, I'm going to make you the host. Please don't turn off the feed at any point. We'll hand it back over to me before we do that, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like I can share. Okay.
And thank you so much for doing this, Lee.
Yes.
It was really nice looking through it over the weekend and seeing what numbers you had come up with.
Of course.
I
just want to make sure I get this full screen. Okay, can we all see what I am seeing right now?
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
With the scores in the red and yellow and orange.
Yes. So I'm just going to set, if you guys are okay, I'm just going to set up a view just to freeze the panel so we can see as we scroll, because I don't want to make this too small. So 11, there we go. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I'm not used to working in.
Okay, thank you for doing this. I'm not proficient and I appreciate your help.
There we go. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. So basically, what I did is, in line with how we approached other intakes with Sean, I created a couple options and I created two that would work within the budget, assuming there is no, changes to the scores. Now, were there any additional changes to the scores,
Just
based off of the
Just the one
average?
that you sent me, and I sent you a quick email back letting you know the new average, if that makes a difference to this.
Um, Yeah, so let's just, would you mind telling me what that one is?
Let me, sorry. It was, I believe it was the average for the Musical Comedy Guild is 11.16.
11 point, oh, my numlock is off, sorry. 11.16. Okay, that doesn't change anything on this end. So essentially the only options, if I could summarize, the only options that would meet the kind of scores as we have set are to either keep scores that just have, funding organizations that just have a score of 12 or higher, and then cap the highest funding allotment at 12,500, or keep all the scores keep all of the projects that have a score of 11 or over and put a $5,000 cap on projects. Essentially, the main difference would be the number of large projects that get funded, because we did talk about protecting the small projects because they eat up a very small portion of the overall funding. And I wanted to see if we could just zero in the discussion on these two options and what that would mean, or if we need to look at another approach overall. And I guess I'll give that back to the rest of you in the committee. I'll pose that to the whole group.
Thanks, Lee, if you don't mind, can we talk about the large projects that would be funded in option A with caps?
So the projects that would be funded in option A with caps would be everything that you see here. So anything that is essentially not red is looking to have the funding. So essentially you're looking at Centre Francophone, their festival for Franco-Ontarians. You have the club. You would also have two of the large project grants. So the Music Tourism 17 North, as well as the Sioux Community Theatre Centre. Ontario Culture Days also would be approved. I believe that was something that as an agenda item we were going to discuss further, if I'm mistaken. Alicia?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. I was going to say, so it's up to the group that's sitting here with us today to review Ontario Culture Days to determine whether or not they will be deemed eligible in this intake. Wording in the application guide, or the ACAP guidelines indicate that they may or may not be considered for funding. In years past, rather last year, they were considered for a project that was local, that highlighted a local Indigenous artist and helped to expand their reach. It's up to this group to determine whether or not you'd like to move forward and support them again this year. The conversation in past was that it was questionable whether or not they received more than 80% of their funding from a public source, from a government funding source, but also that they are a large scale operation, and potentially that they may not be in need the way that some of these other groups are when applying for funding. Nyla, would you like to speak?
For sure, I think, and if you were here or viewed the meeting last time we met, I'm kind of I had brought up this as an issue. It's personally an issue for me, just that I found when I was following like the ACAP guidelines while reviewing the grants, which, as I said, I'm sure most of us are doing when we're doing this on our time, marking everyone on the spreadsheets that we have. When I had looked at their original, like kind of not global, but their overall funding that they had provided for their budget, I found that they were over the 80% that of their like revenue that was expected to come from government sources. And then I kind of reached out to Ally and she kindly reached out to them again to give her some clarification, sorry. And they had indicated that if you counted some in-kind support they got, which was from, I don't want to misquote it, but I believe it's the Toronto Star and then a partnership through an affiliate that includes Cineplex and another group. They expected $250,000 of in-kind support from those two avenues. So based on the number, that's, you know, referring to their overall Ontario Days budget. I wouldn't think, and I can't assume, but where it fits in with everything, it looks like they're talking about Ontario Days that would push it like within the realm of being eligible. For me, I think that the term funding and then in-kind support, although they're similar, I think they're distinct. I don't think that it, in my mind, would affect that line about 80% being government funded because they're receiving support. We didn't ask this, to be fair, but they did expand on what the support would be, if it was buy one, get one with the Toronto Star, what maybe the Cineplex, if it's ads or something like that. And is that coming, you know, are they recognized as sponsors or not, which doesn't make a huge difference. But for me, I feel like funding is different. It's cash for me. I think that was the intention. I wasn't here when they wrote the guidelines. But to me, I think because we're giving cash, that's what I'm looking at when I'm reading that. And then I also looked just at their project budget to see if I could determine what the percentage was, if it was different locally. And the only issue I had, I just couldn't find a percentage. It's not anything on how they did their grant. It was accurate. It's just that the budget came in total like around 60,000. One line item was 30,000, and they said it'd be coming from government grants and revenue sources. And so I wasn't able to, my margin of error was like 50% on whether it was being funded by government sources or revenue. But based on what they did submit when they initially submitted the grant, and even with the follow-up email we got, I just feel like they're ineligible for this grant because when you just look at the funding and you do the math, it's coming in at over 80% is coming from government sources. And to me, it's really clear in I think it's a great project, but I'm always looking at those ineligibilities because I feel like the people who came before I was here put them there for a reason, and I still feel they're eligible. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to view them. I know obviously we spent a lot of time like on this weighted intake list. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, but I re-looked at them on the weekend and that's where I left. I still feel they're ineligible.
Lee, what are your thoughts, not to put you on the spot if you're comfortable sharing?
I am, and I would agree. I think we do have to follow the eligibility criteria in this, and I think it's a shame that it's ineligible. But I think at the behest of, and I know that oversight happens sometimes, and occasionally things that shouldn't be eligible get through to the committee because it was a 700-page agenda. So I think I agree with Nyla. I did have time to take a look at it, and I did. My interpretation was that over 80% of the funding sources, which is how the eligibility criteria were written, were from government sources. So I would think that they're also ineligible.
Great. Sunny, you're welcome to speak if you'd like to, but if there are any other concerns, if you'd like to not and to move forward, we can strike that off as ineligible as well. If you're all in agreement, rather, not you.
There's a lot of people here who've been around a lot longer than I have who understand this process better than me, and I like to be able to hear all that. So much appreciated for your descriptions there. It's really helpful for me. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I think based on that conversation, I don't think that we need a resolution to just to deem them ineligible, but I think we'll be treating that application as if it's ineligible moving forward. Lee, would you like to make an adjustment to the score sheet and to the allocations, please?
Yes,
Thank
we'll
you so
do that
much.
right now, live. So we are looking at, we could potentially adjust some of these cap amounts based off of the two options if that one's removed. Were there any other projects that we were verifying the eligibility of?
No, I see here that the Musical Comedy Guild, I wanted the committee's recommendation on how much they were eligible for. As I've asked for 30,000, and in front of me right now, I can pull up with the synopsises of the application if we need a refresher. But
I
otherwise,
don't know if it's necessary or not, because I think regardless, they're gonna be severely capped at like a 5, 6, or 7. Like there's no way of,
yeah,
I think if they receive funding, it's going to be capped. There's no way around that. Because it's still just a weighted result in a $10,000 cap. It's still $21,000. So we're still not at a place where we can even
Perfect.
discuss a
I think we
10,000.
can probably table that one, then is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, great. Moving forward, can we take a look at the remainder of the large projects that would be funded if we haven't already seen them? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. I think you showed everything though. Are we comfortable with where are we comfortable is the question. I think my biggest, like actually, so here's, I'm gonna bring this up. I'm just looking at the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce. That's a significant request that they put forward. I see with the cap, it's a $5,000 cap. I don't know, what are your thoughts on spreading this out to larger groups, or just spreading this out by capping things significantly, or how do we want to approach this moving forward? Because it's very clear on the spreadsheet where things have aligned.
I think if we discuss broadening the cap on some of the bigger asks, then we have to discuss it as well for Sioux Film Festival. Is that one?
Oh, I
And
wasn't suggesting we expand, I was making sure that it wasn't, because this is the first year of a project that might be multi-year, but they're looking to move outside of Sault Ste. Marie in subsequent years, for this piece. I wanted to ensure that their ask wasn't being met at full capacity despite the large mark, honestly, or the high mark.
One thing we can look at, I don't wanna do too much more work on the spreadsheet, because I feel the intention of the spreadsheet was that we would be able to maybe hopefully get together today and do like a final vote.
Yes,
But one option would be looking at what we have and the caps that are there. So what if everyone got a 5,000 cap, and at least and obviously like all the footwork on that part. If we know that, I'm sorry, that was with the base of. And it's all I'm saying is if we take kind of the remainder that's there and we spread it out based on, like, then we look at weighting, because we weighting WDIGHT. Because we know that like Chamber of Commerce got high, like some of these are like spread over 2 points. So if we take that remaining pool that's there, if we each get 5,000, is there a way to, I know there's a way, but that wouldn't be like so demanding, that we can divide that pool based on how much they got over 11 or how much they got over 12. It might not make a huge difference, but it just might not put some of them like Chamber of Commerce at like 6. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm really like not dividing this correctly in my head.
I see what you're saying, and I know what you're saying, and my biggest concern is there's a bit of a caveat that I've been given down from finance, is that we actually need to round to the nearest $5 increment that we can.
We could do that manually.
Which is also fun.
We, I love when people say we, but
But it's gonna be
there's
we.
the potential to do that manually. I don't wanna take up a ton of time, but I think it would be an option, even, yeah, and I think what I'm seeing is highlighting certain amounts, so maybe it's not, doing a crazy, kind of calculation where we're using a formula, but maybe it is just kind of stepping them, how I think you're stepping it now, and then dividing a pot and saying everyone over 13 gets an extra 1,000, everyone over 12, it's a lot of money. So.
Yeah, so if you guys are okay, what I can do is adjust it live to reflect that, because I like the way this is going. What if we say over 12 is 1,000 and over a score of 13 is 2,000, and see how everything fleshes out from a mathematical standpoint?
I
Is
would
that all
love
right?
to be willing to do that, that'd be fantastic, Lee, thank you. You're the only one who can.
I'm really grateful, if you don't know that already. And when the time comes, I have the draft resolution here ready to go, I'll just need the amounts, and then I can, Right. then we'll invite Donna back in for the small projects, once we've come to some.
And the only thing I'm seeing here, yeah, that one has to stay at 5825. Please,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, just because of that. I didn't even think of that when I was saying this idea, so I don't know if I missed any other ones.
No,
in
let's
my-
see.
Okay.
That actually gets us really close. We have $1,800 left to disperse, using that logic. So I
there-
personally am very comfortable with that. I really like that.
Is there anyone who was just I'm just putting forward an idea for the 1800 would be, is there anyone who was just kind of on the, just missed that cutoff that could, like a Sioux Theater Workshop is like a 10.66. Like, is there someone the next one down who like an 1800 grant would make a difference to?
I see Sioux Community Theater Center at 11.83. But we also have the Mullally Association at 11.83.
Oh, because we're doing the 12 cutoff. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong spot.
Yeah, we could essentially take that remaining 1,800, divide it by two, say 900 apiece, and give 5,900 each to the theater center as well as the Mullally Association. If we were to do that equilaterally just by score.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, well, anyone who's been to events, like $900 is $900. It's always appreciated. I am sure. These people work very hard to get different sources of funding.
Sounds
So
great. So looking at those numbers, without reading, well, I can read them out loud if you want me to. Actually, Lee, could you read them off and I will write them down if we're nearing a near solid
I think
solution?
we're very, very close. So essentially what we did, if you could, I just for the camera to summarize, because not everyone reads spreadsheets the same, is we're awarding a weighted amount based off of the application to those that received a score of 11 above. Those that received a score of under 11.83 received a cap of $5,000. Those that received a score of exactly 11.83 received $5,900. Those with a score between 12 and 13 received $6,000, and those projects with a score of above a 13 received $7,000 based off of our ratings. So that would put Centre Francophone at $5,000.
I'm gonna ask you to go through all the ones that we've allocated funding to in this model, because I'm going to have to regurgitate them back as part of a resolution.
And that would put, sorry, you want me to go through, say that at one more time?
So every single one that's getting funding, if you could tell me which one it is and how much they're getting, both for the camera and for my purposes here.
Perfect. Okay, Centre Francophone receiving funding of $5,000. Cultural Diversity, the club receiving funding of $6,000.
Yep.
Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce receiving funding of $6,000.
Yep.
Sioux Community Theater Center receiving funding of $5,900. Algoma Arts Festival Association receiving funding of $7,000.
Okay.
Over the Rainbow receiving funding of $6,000.
Okay.
Friends of Ermitinger Clerk receiving funding of $6,000.
Yep.
Living History Algoma receiving funding of $5,825,000 or $5,825.
Thank you.
Sorry. Sioux Film Festival, $5,000.
Sorry, say that one again, please.
Sioux Film Festival.
Yep.
$5,000.
Yep.
Sioux Mullally. Am I saying that right? Mullally?
Mullally, but yes.
Malaya. Okay, thank you for the correction. receiving funding of $5,900.
Okay.
Do you need me to go through the small project grants as well?
Yes, for my purposes, but I'm gonna have to read them out loud also.
So that would be, and of course I didn't record it because we weren't really discussing those items.
That's okay. Would you like to take a moment to do that? And then I was gonna say, just looking at the conflicts of interest here. It's just with the club. So I was gonna say, I'm gonna have to do 2 different resolutions. So it's
Well,
gonna be
a few
3.
different actually, because Miranda also couldn't resolve, or she's not on today's meeting, sorry.
No, we're good. So if it's okay with you, I'm just gonna make a highlight. Here's second resolution. And I'll get these done, these 2 here, and then as you take the time, I can call Donna back in and we can kind of get that moving.
Okay, yeah, I have those numbers pulled up for whenever we're ready.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee recommend to City Council the following grants for the 2025 Arts and Culture Assistance Program late intake as follows. Center Francophone, $5,000. Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, $6,000. The Sioux Community Theater Center at $5,900. The Algoma Arts Festival Association, $7,000. Over the Rainbow, $6,000. Friends of Ermitinger Clerk National Historic Site, $6,000. Living History Algoma, $5,825. Sioux Film Festival, $5,000, and the Sioux Malaya Association at $5,900. Can I have someone move, please?
Should Donna be back for this resolution?
No, she can't be.
And
Oh,
Sunny
okay.
seconded. Sunny had to stand up for the second.
Okay, second by Sunny. All in favor? And carried, thank you. Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to ask you to leave the room, Lee, as we review the club.
Okay, so should I admit Donna then? And I don't know how to
You
leave.
should make me the host again, please, if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And my technology is limited to Excel.
No worries, and if we should get disconnected for some reason, please jump back on the line on the same link that we all successfully accessed the meeting at.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to admit Donna back.
And I think if I leave, I think my sharing will stop, I believe.
Okay, am I the host again?
Yeah.
Yes.
How can you see that for sure?
You let Donna in.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. That's perfect, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put Lee in the waiting room. And I'm actually going to put Donna back in the waiting room as well, because she can't be part of this resolution either. Because it is what it is. Okay, so resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee recommended City Council the following grants, following grant for the 2025 Arts and Culture Assistance Program late intake. Item 5.2, the club for $6,000. Can I have somebody move, please?
I'll move. And Sunny seconded.
All in favor? And carried, thank you very much. And carried, perfect. Okay, I'm going to bring people back in now. When I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Great, and we'll be waiting momentarily for one to be back. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to make Lee the host again so she can share her screen so we can talk about the small project grants. Just as a quick update, and I think that it's fine to share this, we have essentially allocated funding to the cultural community events grants, cultural diversity, large project, major cultural and operating and multi-stream applicants where deemed appropriate by the committee. And so that's where we are. Oh, good. Lee is sharing. I'm not doing anything. This is fantastic. And we're now moving on to the small project grants where there are no conflicts reported.
Alicia,
Yes.
are you looking, is Nyla still chairing the meeting, which would be completely fine with me?
Yes, would you like to take it back?
I haven't been doing too much. Ali's had to read all the motions back
That's
to
okay.
us, so.
That's okay. Just tell me what because I'm not sure where, I heard what you said, but I'm just not sure where
No
we're
problem.
going with this in terms of awarding.
Perfect. I will let, Lee, as soon as Lee completes what's going on here, I will let her explain where we're at with the small project grants and the allocations.
Okay. Okay, I didn't realize, so that helps
No,
me
no,
too.
I'm
I didn't
sorry.
realize Lee was the one that's manipulating the spreadsheet, so that's helpful to
Yes,
understand.
thank you very much. Lee, let us know when you're ready.
I am ready. So what we have before us is what we discussed at our last meeting. The two outstanding items that I have highlighted in yellow here. And that was the micro galleries in the Sioux project submitted by Goldie Barzan. There was a discussion point about it potentially being a public art project. But other than that, I think we all agreed that a weighted calculation, all of our other calculations, we're currently awarding these amounts as indicated. So I think we should maybe focus on the discussion items, and I think that would be more of the place of Donna or Nyla to lead that discussion of Josh Norling's project and Goldie Barzan's project.
I'm just gonna jump in and check in that everybody has received the update from Josh at Norling that I've circulated this morning. Thank you. Okay, great. And so go ahead when you're ready.
I'm sorry,
Is that?
I was just
Apologies.
going to say, that's not me to go ahead, please, someone else.
Okay, okay.
Take the lead.
Okay, I can do this, that's fine. So the question is about the two items for discussion, and let's do Josh Norling's item first. I did read the email and that said, and perhaps for the record, you should read that there is a Canadian option. Alicia, that he's proposing. I know that was our discussion last week, and for Sunny's purposes, that in his grant application, his CDs were being made outside of our country, and we felt that that was a point of discussion, and he has found an alternative that is within Canada. So does anyone have any questions about that, and or would anyone like to I guess propose that Canadian option be the one that we'd be prepared to fund? Any conversation around that?
I think he's like, from reading the actual tone of the email, it seemed like he was fine and maybe even like intending to go with the Canadian option. He referenced like how we did in the last meeting that this grant was put in before a lot of the activities on tariffs. And I think with that caveat about, not, going with the Canadian company being our preferred, I don't know if we can put in our wording that this is what we're funding, but either way, I would feel confident with the funding and a note based on the committee feedback, either this is, the preference of the committee, or this is the only way that we're funding this project. Not the only way, but this is kind of what we need to see to fund this project, but otherwise, based on the scoring, then I'm fine to move forward. And he found the option, the Canadian option.
Okay, anyone else with comments around that? Okay, so I would be in favor of that as well, as the request would be, or the expectation is that this is money that would be spent in Canada, based on the option that he's found. All right, moving on to Goldie Barzan's application. I remember the thinking around Alicia that it perhaps belonged in public art, but I know we also had a discussion of how, does that have to be an open call when it comes to public funds spent on public art or whatever? So do you have an update for us there on that?
I don't so much as to say that this is something that we can explore. This is not appropriate for this time, for this particular intake. This is something that we can have time to explore and ask the applicant to resubmit at a future time and potentially work directly with them for future ACAP. Or potentially we could discuss what a public art option would look like later. I don't have any further updates on this. It's up to the committee to determine whether or not they feel it's a public art piece or an appropriate ACAP application.
Okay, anyone with comments there? Lee?
I think given that we don't have a clear transition or ability to kind of freely reference or denote funds across the different categories, I would feel more comfortable just receiving it as an ACAP application at this time. I think with the process review that we're doing, it would make more sense to take the situation into account when we're looking at cleaning up the processes of how these things get reviewed and graded and recommended for funding more within that subcommittee. And then the discussion could be within the broader committee once we make those recommendations.
Okay, anyone with a differing opinion to that? Okay, seeing none, I would concur with that opinion, and I will take the silence from Sunny and Nyla that no one objects to that thinking. So that leaves us with this small project grant section and these proposed amounts of funding. So are we any further discussion on this?
I would just like to say I apologize for if I was distracting earlier, but I did hear Alicia say that we had to round to the nearest $5. So that's all I was doing with this column.
Thank you for that. So if everyone is comfortable with these amounts, I would just like Lee to read them off again, and I will go ahead and make note before preparing a resolution. If there's no further discussion.
The only thing, I
Yeah,
was just wondering if I could see, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, go ahead, Alicia. That was it.
I was just wondering, and I couldn't tell, just was following the conversation, it seemed, Lee, that you were like pulling from column K, and I guess I have it right in front of me, actually, sorry. I just wanted to make sure like none of them were rounded accidentally above like what their eligibility was, because some of the eligibility, you know what I mean? Like some of them are kind of like an odd number. Like the total eligible amount, and then I was wondering if we would have to round down.
Do you think we get a total on the entire tally so far? I guess as a again, because we can't exceed 85,000 in this intake.
Yeah,
So
we
just
would
make
have
sure.
that number at
Yeah.
the top. We still have 20.
Amazing.
Well,
Thank you
no,
for
this
this.
is different, okay.
That's okay. I'm really pleased.
We're gonna use $120.
All right. Amazing.
You're exactly within $120. I don't know if there's a want to award that $120 in any particular way, or if $100 makes no difference at this point in time.
This was great, sorry, my thought was more, and I don't know, I think this is being pulled from the grant application, so column. It's not frozen on there. The one that says maximum allowed, for instance, like the maximum allowed on some of these is 2,999. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't rounded up accidentally to 3,000, because if it's the maximum allowed, I think we'd have to be rounded down to 2,995. And that's just what I wanted to double check, just because I was trying to follow along a little bit, but I was also missing my.
I see what you're saying.
So like this one, am I interpreting this correctly? The max that we could allow them, like for example, Annie King is 2,549.
That's what she's requested. So she's actually eligible for up to 2,999, but they have within her
Okay.
budget, she's requested 2,549. But everybody in the small project grant stream is eligible for up to $2,999.
So really the ones we would have to be looking at are anyone who requested 2,999, because I think they're rounded up to 3,000 and they'll have to go to 2,995 counterintuitively, even though we say that the max is 2,999.
New information comes, so yeah, with that, so I get you. We'll be.
Yeah, I think I don't think that we even need to worry about discussing that because we did weight all of these applications. So no one's actually no one got a 15 out of 15. So no one is even eligible to be awarded 2,999 at this time.
Okay,
So I think at this point in time, I do think that's a good point though for the review committee to take into account if we now know that everything has to be within $5.
I guess just that $120 remaining, do we want to allocate it somewhere?
There are 10 small project grants that are being awarded, so it could be added each, $10 or $12 or whatever the amount is, divided by, I guess it's $12. So each one of those could be increased by 12, but then you've got the $5 thing. So I don't know. I think maybe we leave it be. It gets complicated when we're rounding to 5.
It does.
Okay. So
it does. I don't think it's any surprise to hear me say that I'd like to see every dollar allocated though where possible. So if we're able to give it to somebody maybe who scored the highest, or to top up somebody who was lower, if that makes sense. I don't know, but it's up to you to decide. But if we could allocate it, that would be great, and it helps with keeping our stats later too. When we know annually how much we have, and yeah.
If we take all of our scores that are above 12, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4 small project grants above that 12 mark, we could award them each an additional $30. And it would take care of it.
I'd support that.
Great. Let's let Lee do that to the numbers, and then we'll get a reading. Okay.
Okay.
I think we've done it.
Yeah. So does that leave us at resolution time, Alicia?
I think it does. If I could just get, if I could get Lee to read off to me, the amounts for each project that we'll be funding under the small project grants.
Excellent. So we would be funding Annie King 2090.
Yep.
Chris Schaust 2300.
Yep.
Goldie Barzan 2265.
Okay.
Grocer for Good 2090. Isa Michaud 2375. Jean-Paul Kalikov 1980. Sorry if I butchered that name. Josh Norling 2300. Matt Warnock 2430. Michael Birch 1185. And Sky Smith 2360.
As soon as I can write this down properly, we'll have it. Excellent. Thank you.
And just for my own mental well-being, I will send this spreadsheet back to you, Alicia, just so if anyone questions or has any concerns, you have kind of ownership over it and can view if there are any errors.
Thank you. We do keep records. So if it's okay, Donna, I'll go ahead and read the resolution, and you can walk through it. That's okay. Okay, so resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee recommend to City Council the following grants for the 2025 Arts and Culture Assistance Program late intake as follows. Annie King, $2,090. Christopher Schaust, $2,300. Goldie Barzan, $2,265. Grocer for Good, $2,090. Isabel Michaud, $2,375. Jean-Paul Chalikov, $1,980. Josh Norling at $2,300, Matt Warnock, $2,430, and Michael Birch, $1,185, and Sky Smith, $2,360.
Thank you, Alicia. Could I have someone to move and to second approval of those grant awards? Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Thank you, Nyla. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried.
Did we just
Does
do that
that-
in 2 meetings?
We did, and I've never been prouder of a committee in my whole life. Great. I don't even know how to end this meeting.
Well, if there's nothing further, then I will just ask one quick question, which is about tomorrow's meeting, Alicia. So does that mean now that we finished today, we will cancel tomorrow's meeting?
We will cancel tomorrow's meeting, but plan to meet sometime in June as we have community recognition award to review moving forward, and potentially public art and what have you. So,
Okay,
but we
okay.
will meet.
And we're
in-
working towards setting another date for the guideline committee as well, right? Or the guideline discussions?
Yes, I'm elated in all of this. So once that this is finished, we can move forward and there won't be any confusing calendar invitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Then without anything further, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, Nyla. Thank you, Sunny. All in favor? That is carried. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you